I love it. Chic album and Sister Sledge album.
I got these two albums from a good friend. I got these two albums from a good friend of mine when I started collecting records back in 2014. And he said, you know what you got to have in your collection, man? If you don't have Chic albums and Nile Rodgers albums, you ain't got nothing, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
It's good to have you here, sir. It's such an honor.
Thank you.
I want to start off by what gets us together here in the first place, which is Manuel Medrano's new song, Cielo. Tell me about it. How did you arrive to Manuel Medrano's music?
So Manuel, he contacted me through the record label, and he wanted to work with me. He liked my guitar sound. And what's really great about the relationship, and I mean this from my heart, that we became pen pals. We started writing each other back and forth because I wanted to understand who he was as an artist, understand who he was as a human. And so I went back and I listened to all of his music. And then I thought to myself, okay, so I understand your music from the beginning and where you are now. How do we now go maybe there? But you have to do this respectfully because you don't know who they are yet. So we kept writing back and forth, and I'd say, Manuel, I have this version, that version, this version, and I use the word hardcore. So I have hardcore, 1, 2, and 3. What do you like the best? And I'll do that. I knew if he chose hardcore 1, that meant that I went too far. He said, our very first conversation, he says, make it more hardcore.
Wow. How long does this process take for you as a collaborator of young emerging talent and musicians?
It's different every time. With me and Avicii, the very first time we met, like that, 10 minutes, and it was off and running. Same thing with Sam Smith, 10 minutes. He was sitting in the corner like this. Hey, it's my friend Sam Smith, 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes longer. David Bowie, we had to get to know each other and go around and visit museums. It's different every time.
And in the case of Manuel, what captivated you the most?
His quality of his sound. That was cool. Is that you see? So my father is a percussionist, or he's passed away now, but he was a percussionist from Barbados, and he came up during the time of the Latin music invasion of America. So all of a sudden it was music like samba, rumba, merengue, or whatever, all the different styles from all the different countries, from the islands, from South America, all the way from Argentina, tango, everything. So he learned to play every different style. So when I got older, because I was around my father and the music he played, I played with a lot of Latin artists in New York. Come on, Puerto Rico is like the sixth borough of New York. It's like Manhattan, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, Puerto Rico. So the salsa music that was coming from Puerto Rico, and plus, some of my family is from a place in Puerto Rico called Rio Piedras. And so it was sort of in my blood to do music with Latin artists. And so I'm familiar with the different types of sounds. So people who have the smooth vocalists, the balladeers, some people who are the more exciting kind of singers. But when I heard, Manuel's sort of very smooth sound, it was like, oh, okay, I could dig that. Let me see if I can make that into something different. Like he had idea of who I was. Now I listen to his music, so I had an idea of who he was, and then we tried to put it together.
Where do you see this song in the near future? When you collaborate with another artist, do you have an expectation as to where it's headed in terms of success? Or
No, never, because I don't control that part of the business. I don't know, because look, I've been doing this a very long time, and a great example, Daft Punk, fantastic record. We all thought the big record was going to be Lose Yourself to Dance, and that Get Lucky would be the setup record, like Michael Jackson would do. Michael Jackson would release a setup record, but the big record would be the second or the third one coming. So they were just saying, okay, basically, Daft Punk is back. Here we come, you know, with Get Lucky, but then we're going to come with and it was not to be. It was Get Lucky all the way.
yeah, I know, but Lose Yourself to Dance is still a great song. I mean,
oh no. See, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make it less great. I'm just saying that you asked me if I thought, like, if I have expectations. So that shows you that if you have expectations, what usually will happen is that you're going to be wrong. So
absolutely.
I try not to have any expectations. I just do something to try and make myself happy, but more important, make the artist happy. When you see the last email that Manuel wrote to me, he says, "Nile, I love this song and I love you too." But that took a long time. You know what I mean? That took, like, you know, going back and forth, writing, okay, Manuel, okay, now, hey, can you try this? Hey, Manuel, what if we do this? Hey, you know, what do we do? I don't know if I like that. But you know what? I played it last night. Now I think I do like it. What if you just change the vibe? You know, that kind of thing.
You know, I think this is the very first time a Colombian artist works with you, right?
Yeah.
This is the very first time. This is history in the making.
Well, you know, it was really a shame is because we were supposed to play in Colombia this year.
I know. And it was like, man, because I saw you guys perform at Sonar back in 2016.
Oh, my God.
And it was like watching you guys perform that night. It was like midnight to 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m.
Right.
Man, it was like watching 40 years of pop music, you know, right before your very eyes. Every single thing that was being performed and played on that stage, we had heard before. We had seen and heard on the radio. It had been a hit. I mean, it was like, whoa. It was crazy.
I remember that. Yeah.
Do you look forward to coming? You know, do you think things are going to change for the worse now that this whole thing is happening?
I hope not for the worse. I hope for the better. I think that what's going on now in the world with the Black Lives Matter movement and people now starting to understand that indigenous people, that people of color have not had equitable treatment. And because you have young people who are their fans and their friends and their loved ones, I think that for the first time, people now understand. They feel it here. And you know, the last journalist I was talking to, he was asking me, do I think, you know, music sung in Spanish is going to continue to grow around the world? And I says, of course it is, because now people are listening to the soul. They're not just listening to, you know, their own music, their own cultural music. Now they're starting to feel, I mean, look at how big K-pop is. Nobody knows what they're saying, but meanwhile, they were able to make the American president have a terrible rally. Like he thought he had 1 million fans and 6,000 showed up. Now that that is the power of music. That is fantastic. Nobody could have done that except for music fans.
Back in the 70s when you started, things were also rough. The environment, the social, the civil rights movement was just, getting kick-started. How have things changed? You say that you hope that things change for the better, but police brutality continues to be a reality 100 years after, the creation of terrible propaganda documents such as the birth of a nation and things like that. But you were there when things started to change, when the tide started to shift. How, as an activist, not just a musician, as a man who has funded the We Are Family Foundation, do you see things happening? What's going to happen now, Niles?
So here's where I feel a difference. So when I was younger, we were going from a certain amount of intellectualism, but a lot of energy. Imagine we have something as devastating as the Vietnam War, and we protest and we protest and we protest, and all of a sudden the Vietnam War is over. We felt victorious. We felt like, oh my God, the sound of our voices were heard, and we sort of then took our foot off the gas. Right, we started to celebrate, which is, in a strange way, what the disco movement was about, because disco was celebrating the women's movement, the gay rights movement, the Black liberation movement. Everything sort of converged together, and I think the thing that really tied us together was the Vietnam War, because people from all different walks of life were all being drafted to go serve in Vietnam. Of course, people of color and poor people disproportionately, but still we all felt it together. When we celebrated, we took our eye off the ball, if you say. We thought that something big had been accomplished, and we thought that it was something that was lasting. But what had happened is that we hadn't captured the hearts, minds, and souls of the entire nation. It was just a sort of movement of young people that we got the right to vote. And so now all of a sudden we were excited about that. But if you noticed in the last few elections, more people were voting for television shows for like people singing than they were voting for the president. It was crazy. But I think now when people see that even the American government is very ineffective and can be manipulated, that if K-pop fans can manipulate a president's rally, I think that shows that the people need to have a voice, and the people can exercise their voices. If they can exercise their voices at a rally and not show up, they can exercise their voices and show up, the exact opposite. I think that's going to be so powerful. Once we start understanding we need to show up for everything, not just the presidential election. We need to show up for the elections that govern our neighborhoods, because if we start voting for people who are in our neighborhoods, they're not going to kill you. That's going to be your friend. It's going to be your uncle, your best friend's father that's going to be policing your territory. They're going to be people who know you. Right now, you have people who are total strangers coming in and seeing people that they don't know, they don't feel in their heart a closeness towards them. They go in there with the training that this person is dangerous and can kill me, and therefore they are trained to react as opposed to instead of being proactive, instead of saying, wait a minute, maybe I can control this situation. This situation is not going to control me.
Well, let's look forward to a better future. And I think that when it comes to the past and what you've done for music, even though you are an activist at heart, you've been an activist all your life, I think, and I was thinking a little bit about the impact that your music has had over the course of 40 years, that collaboration has been at the core of your musicianship. At a time when the 70s were so focused on rock acts and the cult of personality that came along and that came with it, you managed to, get musicians together through and through. You got Madonna, you got David Bowie, you had an impact on our rock en español movement. I remember back in the 80s, musicians such as Carlos Alomar from Puerto Rico, who was really following your footsteps and gave us
I was following his footsteps.
Oh man,
Carlos was first.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because he was, I don't really know, but
Young Americans, and his wife sang on every Sigue record.
Got you. Yes. Well, Carlos was in the Soda Stereo record back in '87, and everything that sounded, it sounded very much like what you were doing with Duran Duran and Madonna and everything. Right. So I think that spirit of collaboration has done a lot for music. It's expanded our thoughts, and it's expanded our sight into better ideas, into better songs, and I think that you should be very proud of yourself for accomplishing that and doing that.
Thank you.
I really thank you for taking the time to talk to me for a while. This interview is going to be on our station, The X, on 103.9 FM. It's going to be on my podcast. It's going to be on the Sunday paper as well. And, it's really been an honor. And I'm very glad that you finally got together with us Colombians to work on something beautiful such as Manuel Medrano's Cielo.
So maybe next year we can finally play in Colombia like we were supposed to do this year.
Definitely. We look forward to seeing you next year. Let's hope it happens. And best of luck with the surgery in 5 months, I believe, right?
No. It's going to be soon now. 5 months has been the delay because of the pandemic. So now it'll happen in 2 weeks.
All right. Okay. Best of luck with that. Take good care of yourself. Stay safe. Many blessings. And once again, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Take good care, sir.
Right, man. Pleasure.
Bye.
Cuando regresemos hablaremos con Nairo Quintana en esta segunda parte de El Podcast por Canal 13.